to another episode of Raw Talk where we get 0 F's over here. I know y'all need to do me a
Go out this motherfucker, doing it up. Holla at your boy, Mighty Montreal Drill on the YouTube. My man PNO on the YouTube.
Almost for this video, I don't respect how much people reached out to me. Happy as hell that PNO got locked up,
etc. PNO is in the building.
We got Adam 22 talking about Minor Mouse. Allegedly, Minor Mouse called him out or something.
All right, what's up? So we're here with We Love Hip Hop. I got my mans here. Go ahead, introduce yourself to everybody.
What's going on, y'all? My name is Pino, Pompano, Florida. If you don't know where that's at, man, down south. It's as south as you can get in Florida, besides Miami.
That's crazy. Okay, so my man's here is one of the OG prison YouTubers. So we're going to get into that. But the first thing I want to start with is, we're up here up north in Canada. You're in Florida. It's mad different. So why don't you just tell us a little bit of what it was like growing up in Florida? Because for people out here, some people here know Florida because they go there a lot, but a lot of people don't know much about Florida at all.
So I grew up in a city in Florida. So it's a little different because it depends where you grow up at in Florida. You could grow up in Florida somewhere in North Florida, maybe over there by Gainesville or something like that, and it's a little more country out there. You come down in South Florida, like Miami-Dade, Broward County, Palm Beach, a lot of it is inner cities. So when I was growing up, it was a whole neighborhood I grew up with. You know what I mean? So I would wake up in the morning every day religiously and go to a green box or go check all the green boxes to see where everybody's at, where everybody's chilling, where everybody's smoking at, what we doing for the day, whose house we skipping school at. That was pretty much my life all the way until 11 or 12 until I started getting involved in criminal activity. And then it was in and out of jail, who we gonna rob, what we gonna do here, and this, that, and the third, So, but it's like I said, it's different in Florida when you if you grow up in a country part of Florida, even South Miami towards Paran and Goulds, which is an hour and a half away from me, it started to get country. But when you hit the Tri-County, Broward, Dade, and Palm Beach, it's basically city.
Okay, that's crazy. So did you all where you're living at now? Is that where you've always lived at? Is that where you grew up, South Florida?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Broward
crazy.
County. I've lived in Broward County my whole life. I mean, I lived in Martin County, but I lived there for a month and a half. So I can't even say I've lived there, even experienced it. My whole life been Broward.
So would you say growing up in Florida, I know you've been through some shit out there, but would you say it was overall a good experience for you? Or would you have say no, I'd rather have grown up somewhere else?
Nah, I love Florida, bro. I can't, because I've been so many other places. You know what I mean? I've been quite a few other states, and I just like the feel of Florida. I don't like the cold. That's one thing I don't like. So I can say that off the rip. I don't like the cold. I was in Colorado one year, and it was 10 degrees, bro. And my eyes were watering, my ears were hurting, my nose running. It's just my body and cold don't agree. You see what I'm saying? That it just don't work. So I would say I like Florida, bro. I like the weather. I like everything about Florida. I mean, the beaches, I'm a beach baby. So it ain't nothing for me to wake up, get in the car and go to the beach 10 minutes away, 15 minutes away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, facts.
You can't really do that in other states.
Yeah, honestly, I've always looked at Florida. It's completely different from the other states. I've always seen it as almost part of Central America or the Caribbean almost. Because me, I have some Cuban family, right? And I spent a lot of summers going to Cuba and stuff. And I know the culture in Cuba versus Florida is different because they're a little cut off from each other. But in terms of the weather and how things are and what's there, the beaches, stuff's very similar. So it's I could imagine if you live in Florida never wanting to leave because there's just there's not really anywhere else quite like that in the US.
Well, in South Florida, you have a lot of Cubans, so it's a lot of diversity in South Florida, especially Broward, Dade, and Palm Beach. Like I said, in the Tri-County, you got a lot of Haitians, Cubans, Jamaicans, Venezuelans, Costa Ricans. It's a lot of diversity. I grew up with a lot of diversity. So I would say I'm more cultured to diversity. You understand? I grew up eating Cuban food. You know what I mean? My wife is Cuban. Or I grew up eating my homeboy's mom mom's cooking, which was Haitian food, you know, like grill and shit like that. You feel me? Or legume or stuff like that. And I wouldn't know about this stuff unless I grew up around it. You feel me? So
Yeah.
I like it. You know what I mean? I like it's where I'm from. You know what I mean? It's a pride thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, Florida, because like a lot of people don't know this about Canada, but like Canada is like a super high percentage of the Canadian population is immigrants, right? And like one thing I've noticed about Florida is like other people in the US, most people like their families have been in the US a while. In Florida, it's a lot of like first and second generation immigrants. So they keep a lot of that culture. When you get people coming from Haiti or coming from Cuba, you know, it's not like their family was there 5 generations ago. It's like their parents or their grandparents or them were there. So they really bring the culture when they come over. Like a lot of people always wonder, like, oh, why are Canadians so nice? It's because, like, I'll be honest with you, a lot of Canadians, like I said, are like immigrants or like raised by immigrants, and like they really instill those values of like, yo, you have to be kind to people, you have to be nice. That's why you get a lot of please and thank yous and like people just being really nice in Canada, because like it's like those immigrant things. It's not even the white people in Canada, because a lot of them could be dicks. It's like the immigrant families really bring that and instill that. And I've always found like Florida in the US is always like a lot different, because you got like those real people who came over one generation or are coming over now. So it brings that culture. So like Florida's got like those deep cultural ties to the Caribbean and like, you know, Latin America and all that. So it's like, that's why I've always looked at Florida as like a different state. Like there's no other state like Florida, you know?
Nah, there's nothing like Florida. I ain't gonna lie, there's nothing like Florida. But like what you saying about how growing up, like I've always like been like that. I've always like, when I go to the store and I get something, I say thank you, yes ma'am. I say thank you at the drive-thru. You know what I mean? So like it's just something that I do. I kind of, it was instilled at me at a young age, possibly from going in and out of boot camp and, you know, juvenile facilities and shit like that, where they make you say yes sir or shit like that. So that was probably instilled at me from that part of my life. Because like I said, I've been getting in trouble since a young age. 11, 12, 13 years old is when shit started for me. So in the juvenile system. So it was kind of just growing up, you know, and my mom, she's always taught me to be respectful. You feel me? So like, I've always, like, my mom, she's not like these new age, nothing against these new age moms and stuff like that. But like, if I talk back to my mom, she would slap the shit out of me. Yeah. And my grandmama too. My grandma would slap the shit out of me. Growing up, if I would talk back, and when I say talk back, see, people are like, oh, what does he mean by talk back? When I say talk back, I mean, if she says something and I respond with anything besides yes,
facts,
ma'am, or no, ma'am, that's talking back.
Facts.
That's talking back, and you get smacked for that shit.
Yeah, I know what that's like. All right, fam. So I kind of want to get in now to the prison stuff. So, I know you were involved in a lot of the like early prison YouTube too. Like, you know, a few years ago when it was like really coming up and it was like a new scene and stuff like that. I know you were on Lockdown 23-1. Do you want to kind of talk to us about like how all that got started for you and how you got into the prison scene?
Man, honestly, so with the whole, I didn't get into that shit until like 6, 7. I was already out for like 6, 7 months out of prison before somebody approached me and was like, yo, I've been telling Josh about your story and shit like that. And Josh said he's heard from other people, blah, 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 about you in the Department of Corrections, and he wants to tell you the story. So I went on lockdown at 23-1, and I told my story or whatever, and he asked me about 1090 Jake, and I ain't know who that was. You know what I mean? I'm fresh out of prison. I don't know who that is. And he said he's a white blood, and I was like, at where? Florida prison? He said he was at ACI. So meanwhile, I just EOS from ACI like 6 months ago. I'm only been out 6, 7 months. So I had just got out of ACI. So I ain't never seen a white blood at ACI. So I said it in the interview, and it kind of sparked the beef or whatever through the comment section, through like his people or his fans that he had already built or whatever. And then we ended up being cool after that, and we was
So yeah, you were telling me about the 1090 Jake thing. You want to just like recap, like start like you heard he was a blood from ACI or whatever.
So yeah, I went on 23-1 and like I said, Josh was asking me questions, you know, about my bid and stuff like that. And then he asked me about the prison scene, basically. That's why he brought up 1090 Jake. He didn't bring it up in an ill manner. He brought it up basically because it was the prison scene and it was an upcoming scene, which I knew nothing about. You feel me? I didn't know nothing about YouTube really. So I was like, I had just EOS'd about 6-7 months ago. And when I say EOS, I mean in the sentence that literally is a thing in prison. When you EOS in Florida, it means the end of your sentence, your EOS date or whatever. It's not his name. It's really, you feel me? It's a thing in Florida. So when I EOS was 6-7 months ago, and there was no white bloods in Florida. So I said in an interview, it kind of sparked a little back and forth with the fans or whatever. And we ended up being cool or whatever. He hit me on the side. We ended up being cool or whatever. And then him and K-Frog got on some like snake shit. And they was like, oh, we're going to start exposing people because we're going to start shutting people's channels down and this, that, and the third. And they're like, oh, Pino, shut your channel down or we gonna expose you. And you know me, I'm the best. You can suck my dick. You ain't exposing nobody, you know, excuse my language, but you ain't exposing nobody. What you talking about? So he dropped paperwork. He's like, oh, he's a snitch, this, that, and the third. So I was already, you feel me, going up towards his way on some other shit. So when I had got up that way, I had took a little road trip and got up that way. And not a little road trip, it's a big road trip. It was about 30 hours. So when I got up that way or whatever, he knew I was in his city because I had posted a little Instagram selfie of myself in the city. He knew I was in the city. So
we're talking about Boston, right?
Yeah, Boston. Okay. I was in Southie, and he was like, he went live with like 500 people on it live. Oh, tell him to pull up this, that, and the third. So I went live and told my chat to spam him with the Addy, and he fucked around and gave the Addy, and I just pulled up on him, and that was that. But that's how that whole shit popped off. Like, and then I guess I was big on the prison scene because, like, I felt like, you know, I did the interview for a reason, you feel me? And people was telling me, you know, that you could make a platform now. You've been on a big platform or whatever. So I had a lot of people in my ear. So I like, you know what? I'm going to go interview the people that I fuck with in everyday life, that I know in everyday life. So I was dropping interviews back to back. I was dropping interviews with Bloods, Crips, fucking homeless people, fucking active gangbangers, people non-active, people who went to prison. I was dropping interviews back to back. And I built a pretty big platform or whatever. I ended up on No Jumper, you know, quite a few other platforms as well, besides like Lockdown 23-1 and No Jumper. But that's pretty much how I entered the prison scene. Like my first year or two into the prison scene, I didn't even realize I was a pretty big face on the prison scene. I didn't even realize that. I was just doing me, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty crazy. I'll be honest with you. Like through all that drama, like I told you when we talked, I'm someone who watched a lot of the prison scene. So I've seen all that shit unfold, the shit that they happened with you. Like there was a minute before like you drop little clips and stuff at the end. Because like from like the point of view of the fans, right? You had that whole shit where you guys were going back and forth. And then randomly that just stopped. And then he comes on live with like a bleeding head yelling after. And I'm not gonna lie, when I just saw that,
because
I
was antagonizing him. I was letting him know, like I was posting Instagram posts like show your face now, and because I knew I spared him. Honestly, I got up off him. Honestly, let's be real about the situation. Blood was going everywhere, and I got up off him because people were outside. His baby mama was outside. People were all outside. So I was like, man, and you gotta understand, I'm 30 hours away in another state. You know. So, and I just got out of prison. So it was like, man, nah. I gotta go.
And I'll be honest too. I think it was Lockdown 23-1 had the best reaction where he was like on live or someone and someone was like, wasn't it supposed to be a fair one? And he's like, bro, there's no such thing as a fair one. What do you mean?
Nobody invited me to a fair fight. Nobody said there was a damn ring, gloves, ain't none of that shit. Man, at that time, he was somebody who tried to snake me and then challenge me. So it was like, man, what you talking about? Like, Ain't none of that.
Yeah.
He was just at that same live he was on with 500 people. He was on live. He had a blood get on the live. Dude had a bandana on. If you look on the clips on YouTube, dude had a bandana on. Dude's like, nah, he ain't coming out here. We gonna leave him slumped out here. Da, 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 da. So what you think? You know what I mean? Like, and I had people with me at the same time, and the people that was with me wanted to jump him. And I was like, nah, man, don't jump him. Don't jump him. Don't do that. And they was like, well, at least, handle up. So I was like, all right, we came up here for a reason. I'm going to draw blood. So that was just that. But other than that, it wasn't really even no pressure. Like, I ain't even know Buddy like that. That was the first time I met Buddy, was when I beat him up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I remember.
You know what I mean? And it was before he had all this clout. So it wasn't like I did it for clout or anything like that. It was pressure. He knew that. And that's just what it was. But I don't promote that shit. I try to, like, not encourage that type of behavior. You feel me?
Yeah.
Because I feel like if I encourage that type of behavior, then it falls back on me. And at the end of the day, I'm still working on my behavior. You feel me?
Yeah.
So why would I encourage that same behavior to other people that I'm trying to change?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you, right? Like, so I know after that happened, like after some time, he dropped that footage against you. I know the footage he dropped was pretty cut up, right? Like, people who don't really know about that stuff can miss cuts and stuff like that and watch something and think it's like straight footage. But like, I do video editing, so I can see when something's been cut up a little bit, I know you told me you have like the full thing. Do you think like if you drop the full thing that it's going to really like change the view of it? Because I know when you cut something up, how much you can change what something sounds and looks like,
I mean, people going to see what they want to see. You know what I mean? So I can't really change nobody's view. I could just give you the whole story. You know what I mean? I can't just sit back and let that happen and let him give a portion of the story, like 15%. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm gonna give you the 100% story. So everything gonna be dropped, but it's 18 hours. Yeah. Like he said, he originally, when he made the post, he said, I have 18 hours worth of footage, right? Mm-hmm. But his shit was only like 35 minutes long, cut and edited. So it's like this, if you got 18 hours, you feel me? But that'll be posted soon, and it'll be posted in segments, and it's more along the line. So people who are interested want to know everything that you can know everything. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm an open book. It don't matter. I really don't care. Yeah. Like in real life, I do me. You know what I mean? The internet is something that I'm on for the simple fact I'm trying to encourage people not to do dumb shit to wind them back up in the Department of Corrections. You know what I mean? Because I've been through that, and I've been through the Department of Corrections, and I know how rough it is. And one thing I'm big on is re-entry into society with the Department of Corrections and changing that with the Department of Corrections, because people come out like how I came out, and they come out with the same mentality when they were in prison. I had did 3 years on my first bid and then 7 years on my second bid. We didn't even get into my first bid. This was my second bid. Mm-hmm. On my second bid, like mentally, I wasn't prepared to go out to the street because, I was gangbanging all the way to the door. You see what I'm saying? So mentally, I had that mindset, and I wasn't prepared to go to the street unless I was prepared for failure. And the Department of Corrections doesn't provide you with teaching you on how to get a credit card, how to build credit, how to establish yourself, how to get a small business loan, how to, at least just get a job or whatever. They just give you a book. In Florida, they give you a book. And on your last 6 months, they give you a little book and they say, fill out the book and come to a couple classes. And you can fall asleep in class. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
I think like that's definitely a problem everywhere when it comes to prison. So like that kind of leads me into my next question, right? So I've seen your content over the years. Like when it first started, it's exactly like you said, like you had the mentality of someone who's just coming out of jail, just having to deal with all that shit, still having to deal with the gangbanging. And like over the time, I've seen your content turn more into like a positive light and actually trying to help people. So what advice would you give to someone, like, let's say they're fresh out today, it's their first day out. What advice would you give them not to end up back in the same situation?
A job. First, you need stability. First, you need some type of stability. You can't come out here and just expect you're just gonna open up a business. If you ain't got nothing, you have to start from something. You know what I mean? And if you have a lot of people when they get out of prison, they actually have somebody that cares about them, and they actually have a place to stay to where they can start back up on their feet. So if you get a job and you're able to save your money to start up your own business or whatever your dreams, and you don't want to work for somebody for the rest of your life like a 9-to-5, and you want to start your dreams, you want to start goals, stepping stones towards your dreams, you know what I mean? Stack your money. Get a job, stack your money. The job will keep you out of trouble. 100% the job will keep you out of trouble. And it sounds bad, but 9 times out of 10, you know, people getting out of the Department of Corrections, they get out and they end up having to work some type of labor job. You know what I mean? And if you're going to work from 7 a.m. till fucking 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, by the time you get home, bro, you probably just want to shower and watch some TV. You know what I mean? Eat a meal and go to sleep. You don't want to go out and hang at the club. You don't want to be over there on the corner where, what's his name at? You don't want to do none of that. You know what I mean? And it keeps you out of trouble. It 100% keeps you out of trouble. And then when you establish yourself and you open your own business, by that time, you're going to be focused enough to realize that, hey, this is what I got going. I need to focus on this 7 days a week. This is mine now. I need to focus on this 7 days a week. How can I make this lucrative?
No, I think that's really good advice. So the next thing I want to ask you is, I know you had said in one of your other interviews at some point that you have a moving business. And I'm assuming if you're talking about your truck and all that, is that still what you're doing?
Yes. I'm trying to move it. I said it last year that I'm trying to move into real estate. I still haven't. But I'm trying to make the move out of the moving industry into real estate. Right now, it's just simple moves and junk removal. It pays me good, you know, it pays the bills, let's just say that. And, you know, it's something I had to work towards. It took years.
Yeah.
So I've been out 5 years now. So it took years. I've ran through so many jobs, bro. I when I first got out of prison, I was working on a roof in Miami. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Pulling bullet holes and bullet shells out of a roof, 9 stories up. You know what I mean? So, like, it's a progress. People might not feel like, you know, in life to where you can get stable. You feel me? To where you can get comfortable. Mm-hmm. People may feel like, oh, I'm not comfortable yet. Well, keep striving until you get comfortable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just got to keep going till you get comfortable. You got to progress. You can't degress. You got to progress. You know what I mean? You just can't go back to the same shit you was doing. Albert Einstein said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting different results. So if you out there committing crimes and you keep going to prison, something's going on here. You got to stop committing motherfucking crimes.
Yeah. So, like, your moving company, are you just doing within Florida, or do you guys go out of state too? Like, what are you guys doing there?
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, it's Florida, but we have been out of state. Okay,
what's the farthest you've gone?
Alabama.
That's crazy. How long was the drive?
Alabama is a good 11 hours. It depends where you're going into Alabama, because we're coming from South Florida.
Okay, yeah. That's crazy. Okay, so let's like kind of switch topics here. Like, I know you had mentioned about your no jumper stuff before. I kind of want to ask you, like, how'd your no jumper interview come about? You got interviewed by Adam, right?
Correct.
So how did the interview come about?
I think I know for a fact Josh, Lockdown 23-1 played a big part in it, but I guess Adam was interested in the whole ordeal. I guess he was a viewer like everybody else. Yeah. You know, he watches YouTube as well, and I guess he was a viewer in the early prison genre, and he knew who I was. He knew who 1090 was. He you know.
Yeah.
Nobody really knew who K-Frog was. K-Frog was just a tag along the whole time. But he was interested. He was genuinely interested in the story or whatever, I guess.
Yeah, I think he was like a genuine fan of like the prison scene.
Lockdown 23-1, and then Lockdown 23-1 hit me up, and then I talked to Adam from there. Yeah, in the beginning, the whole prison genre, when it was first popping, he was really into it. Just a lot of people were. And that what's crazy is I didn't even know. You know what I mean? I was seeing my interviews getting 50, 60,000 views, you know, but I wasn't knowing that, like, I'm like I said, the whole YouTube thing was new to me.
Yeah, and I think your No Jumper interviews passed like 1 million now, or at least certain parts of it. I've seen pretty crazy views on some of that. Yeah, that's crazy, bro. So, I gotta ask you, bro, like, I don't really know any of the people at No Jumper. The guy who's producing the show, the owner of the network, he's pretty close with a few of the people over there. What's your opinion on like the people over at No Jumper, Adam and all them? Like, you've been over there.
I mean, I really don't know any of them too personally to like give any type of hateful opinion or anything, because I don't really hate nobody. I mean, I might dislike some shit you do, but I don't really hate nobody unless, like, you know, you're a child molester or something like that. Then I have a pretty much a hate for you, or like, you know, a terrorist or something like that. But other than that, like, I don't have any ill feelings towards anybody over there. You know, I think he needs to address the whole situation with Little Pump and because Lil Pump was addressing about him having some type of relation with 16-year-olds or whatever.
Yeah.
Lil Pump was 16, so I think he need to address that, but that should be addressed. You know, he has a platform to where he can address it enough to where people can hear his side of the story, and I feel like he kind of shined away from that shit.
Yeah.
As far as Sharp, I had some disagreements with some things he said in the beginning, but Sharp actually was one of the few people that hit me up on the side and FaceTime me, and we talked, on FaceTime, and we discussed, you know, the issues we had with each other, and, you know, we resolved it through a phone call. You know what I mean? So Sharp is all right, people. Sharp is good, people. But as far as that, I ain't really got no opinion on them over there. Like, I know I won't go back on that show. I know that. And it's not because I dislike anybody over there. It's just they got to clean up a little bit over there before, you know, I can go over there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, like, they've had a lot of drama over there recently, for sure. So, like, what do you think about like the people who left? Like, did you see that coming at all? Did you see that happening? Because I'm gonna be honest, right? Like, I was thinking for a long time. I'm like, bro, like this group is not gonna stick together because it just didn't make sense to me. Like, they just didn't jive with each other on certain levels, and like I saw it coming. So, like, how did you feel?
I definitely saw it coming. When AD made community clips, I saw it coming. Once he made community clips, I saw that coming.
Yeah. From
the get-go. So I saw it coming from the get-go. Once they started making their own channels, community clips and Figmunity and all that, or back on Fig, I realized that they was gonna step away from No Jumper. I mean, and nobody's mad at them for that. That's what you're supposed to do. They built a platform, or they built a name for themselves, and then they built their own platform while they were making that name for themselves, and they capitalized on it. Yeah.
No, for sure. They definitely capitalized off the position that they were in. So I want to kind of like rewind a little bit and go into the stuff. A question I forgot to ask you, because we kind of went off on other stuff, is you want to kind of tell us what it's like inside Florida prison? Because, like, as someone who's watched a lot of the stories and, like, you know, some of the stuff other people have said too, like, it's definitely not a place that you want to end up. So, like, you want to kind of just tell us, like, some of the shit about Florida prison, you know, maybe someone who's in the area and, like, you know, coming up and, you know, becoming of age, maybe to want to watch out and not end up in those positions.
Florida prison is rough from the way they feed you to the way of life. Bro, it's like, it's not like back in the 90s when it was all about, you know, back in the 90s, if you went to Florida prison, it was strongly on like where you were from. If you were from South Florida, they stuck together. South Florida stuck with South Florida. If you were from North Florida, North Florida stuff with North Florida. It was that type of thing. In the 2000s, gangbanging was introduced to the Department of Corrections of Florida, and it became a widespread thing in Florida. And now it's basically infested. So, I mean, if that's the type of lifestyle you want to live, if you want to gang bang around a bunch of grown men, it might seem cool at the time, but when you get older, you're going to realize that shit is dumb as fuck. That's why when I see old ass gangbangers, like old heads, people that are like 40, 50 years old, like let's say Whack 100.
Mm-hmm.
When I see people like Whack 100 who's fucking pushing 50 and he's like, on Pyru, I'll beat your ass. Like, well, you got to grow up eventually. You can't, you can't be like that your whole life. I mean, it's entertaining when you're a youth. I can't lie, bro. When you're a youth, it's entertaining, bro. It is what it is. You got your homies with you. You trip on people, and that's just what it is. And especially in the Department of Corrections, it's a way of life, and survival. But dog, it's not something nobody wants to look forward to. You want to look forward to where you're gonna get your next meal because the Department of Corrections is not feeding you enough. You know what I mean? Or being around a bunch of grown-ass men all day, or being in a dirty-ass shower that's infested with mold. I've been at camps where there's rats, cockroaches, infested. You have to set chip bags up in your locker so you can catch the roaches at night so they don't go into your food or your canteen and stuff. I've been at camps where there's no AC, where you had to tie a sheet from the window to the rail of the bed just so the little breeze that comes in through the broken window will hit you. That's how hot it is. You could be laying there in your boxers sweating.
I would die.
So, yeah, I mean, I've been in rough situations.
Like, from where I'm from, bro, it's real. Like, here, what you got to worry about is not the heat, it's the cold, bro. Like, I don't do heat very well, bro. I remember you were saying something, I think it was with that prison guard guy, where you're like, yeah, bro, like, from this time to this time, you have to be out on the yard in the sun and there's no shade. And I was thinking about that, and I'm like, bro, I would literally end up like just out on the ground, gone. Like, I can't handle heat like that. Cold is fine because I'm used to it, but I heard that, and I'm like, bro, if I ever ended up there, I would be such bad health. Like,
that's the thing is you have to be in the sun. They got one little hut, and it's so many people crowded up under the hut, and 9 times out of 10, it's a gang. You know what I mean? Crowded up under that hut. So it's like there's no shade, bro. I mean, you can catch a corner of the hut, but other than that, you have to be on that record all day.
That's crazy, bro.
So, yeah, people get sun poisoning all the time. They end up going to medical and shit, getting sun poisoning. Out South Florida, people will literally declare a medical emergency just to get what they call the DO. They call it DEW, that DO, because that DO is the AC. It's the only part of the whole prison that has AC is medical. So you declare a medical emergency just so you can sit in the AC for a couple hours.
Yeah, I would be doing that all the time. Do they at least sell like sunscreen on the canteen and shit?
They do. They sell sunscreen on the canteen, but not everybody's eligible. But if you're not eligible, they'll give you sunscreen. If they see you get burnt and shit like that, they'll give you sunscreen, and they have no choice but to treat you. They get paid a certain amount of money from their funding for medical and treatment. So,
yeah, well, I mean, at some point they have to help you. But I also know if you're locked up, bro, they're only going to help you so much. Like, it's not going to be the same as at home when you could, when you can actually do something about it. I'm sure the sunscreen's not the same quality as what you can get on the streets and shit like that. Yeah. So I can imagine.
They ain't giving you no deodorant, so you ain't getting no deodorant.
Oh fuck. So, bro, like, what I wanted to ask you, what do you see as like the future of prison YouTube? Because I know, like, from where it started to where it is now, it's really changed. When it started, it was a lot of like stories and like, people like cooking prison meals and stuff like that. But at some point you're going to start hearing the same stories from different people, because the same things happen, or, there's only so many meals that can be made before it gets boring, stuff like that. So I know a lot of the prison YouTube scene has shifted into other stuff, and, so have you. Your content's changed. What do you see as like the future of prison YouTube?
I feel like we kind of drastically changed the whole prison YouTube scene and kind of made it lame. Like everybody played a part in it. Kind of like after I went up there, you know, me and 1090 got into our little scuffle or whatever. I feel like the whole prison YouTube thing was based off of who's a snitch or who's gonna fight. Who's gonna fight who? What type of drama? That was all. It was just drama. It was he's a snitch or I want to fight him. That was the whole genre. And it was just like lame. People got tired of watching it because nobody was fighting. Nobody wasn't whooping on nobody. I mean, after me and 1090 done did what we did, nobody really whooped on nobody. Nobody really was doing nothing. So it kind of got lame after a while because people hearing the same stories, people watching you make the same goulashes. You know what I mean? You got to make it interesting. You got to capitalize and make your channel interesting. Just like there's still prison channels out there right now that make prison content every day, but that shit is whack. That's just lame. Like they got their own little group of like 3,000 people that watch them, and that's it. You know what I mean? It's a wrap from there. It's because nobody's really interested in that shit, which they shouldn't be. Nobody should be interested in that shit. They should be aware of it. They shouldn't be interested in it.
Yeah.
There's nothing really interesting. It's horrifying.
Yeah. No, and I find like there's ways where you can even stick a little bit with the prison content and still make it interesting, but you're not like telling stories. Like I'll use Lockdown 23-1 Josh as an example, right? Like I find the content he still does, a lot of it's still related to prison, but it's more entertaining or like reacting to stuff, or you know, it's not like, oh, I like the base prison content of telling stories and like, you know, what it used to be. I find he's done a good job of growing his content, but I definitely know what you're saying. There's still some YouTubers out there who stick to the same content like it was. They have the little group that follows them, but they're not really going to get bigger than that. They'll maintain that.
Right.
What channels do you think, like right now? So Lockdown 23-1, I think, is one. I don't know if you agree with that.
He's definitely one of the prison YouTubers that have changed his content into reactions, and I like it. I like his content. I like, you know, he reacts to people getting cooked in court, and I like it because not only is he making people aware of what the fuck kind of time you're gonna get in prison if you do this type of crime, but he's giving a raw reaction to it. So it's good content. I like as far as the prison reactions, I'm still going to do prison reactions, but they're going to be more to like, you know, underground prison videos of people took on illicit cell phones and stuff like that. I'm going to be reacting to those type of videos, kind of like the content I was uploading through my short videos. But I'm going to be doing more reactions to them.
Yeah. Well,
you know,
I wanted to ask you about that, right? So I've seen with your content, your shorts have been doing really well for the last little while. Do you want to talk to us about that? Because I know a lot of people now are like, some people are hesitant to do shorts and stuff like that. But like I do them, and you know, I've had shorts get like, you know, 100,000 views while I'm in the shower and shit like that. So it's awesome.
When I popped off them shorts, let's be real. I'm not gonna say no other names, but I made other prison channels start uploading shorts of prison inside of prison. I made them like, oh, real life, because they had no short videos until that time. They had like probably like 4 short videos. Now they uploading one every day and putting inmate. They put in keywords that I was putting. I found a little hole in the system, and I just used it to my advantage. You know what I mean? And that's how my shorts was booming. One of them just.
All right, bro, so we're going to pick up where we left off. So everyone knows we had to cut the last one short because my man had to go. But we're just going to pick off here, and we're going to finish up the end here. So basically, like, we had touched on everything. A couple of the questions I wanted to ask you. One of the things I wanted to ask you is I knew when we had spoke on the phone, it surprised me, but then when you said it, I kind of thought about it, and I was like, it makes sense. You have met someone who came from Montreal, and like I know a lot of like people and stuff from Quebec, like they have their own little like places where they all go and vacation during the winter in Florida. Like, how much does someone in Florida know about Canada, or is it like something you guys don't really hear about very much?
I deal with Canadians all day. Just like you said, a lot of the snowbirds, they come down here for the winter. Up there, they have winter up there, so they come down here for the winter. And I do moving and junk removal, and I deal with a lot of realtors. So there's so many condominiums that are getting sold from snowbirds from that exact reason. Maybe they spent 3 times a year in this condo. And we're talking about a high rise on the beach, $1 million condo. So I know for a fact that certain parts of Canada, they making really good money because they coming over here for the winter. And I deal with so many of them. But what you were talking about with my old boss, he was from Montreal, Canada. Like I said, I worked a lot of jobs before I progressed to where I'm at. And I worked for a company. I'm not going to say the company, but it was a window company. And we were cleaning windows basically for the guy. But he was from Canada. He was from Montreal, Canada. So he used to tell me a lot about it. He used to say, like, it has whole French quarters, like whole quarters for French people.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like it's pretty crazy because like certain Americans, you'll tell them about that and they've never heard about it at all. But sort of along the East Coast, like Florida, New York, places where people from here tend to go a lot. People, when you tell them about it, they're like, oh, yeah. Or like people in New York, they're like, oh, yeah, I go up to Montreal to gamble and drink because the legal age for everything here is 18. So like if you live just across the border, you can come 2 hours from the border. You're in a big city of millions of people. You can gamble at 18. You can go into bars at 18. There's casinos, like there's strip clubs everywhere. Like the law, especially in the French part of Canada, like for that stuff, like the laws are like real lax, especially compared to like America. It's like a lot of Americans come up here to party, and it's like it's not a rare thing in the summer here to find like 2-3 Americans from New York at a bar getting like ridiculously drunk because they're like, they're like 18 years old. And for them, they'd have to like get beer from their parents or like try and hide it. And then they come up here and it's like they could literally walk into any bar, any club, show their ID and buy everything. So like they tend to go crazy. Like I've heard a few stories of them ending up in like the ER, getting their stomachs pumped, stuff like that. But yeah, bro. Also, like the one thing I want to say about Canada, like, bro, there are a lot of wealthy people in Canada. Canada's like a real, like, they have it on both ends. There's some real poor people in Canada, but then there's some real rich people. Like a lot of people think when you think of Canada, you think of like igloos and like woods. And it is really like that. Most of Canada is like that. But like there's also like really big cities in Canada, like Montreal and Toronto and Vancouver, where like almost everyone there is immigrants. So you get like this crazy diverse population, sort of the same idea as you get in Florida. Obviously, You get different cultures because like cultures like to pick and choose where they like to go based on stuff. But it's sort of the same idea. You get a crazy mix of people that you don't often see in other places in North America. So like that's one of the things I find like Florida and Canada, like at least the cities in Canada, have in common.
Yeah, we definitely get a lot of Caribbean down here. Definitely. Yeah. We get a lot of the island. Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Haitians, Jamaicans. We have more island immigrants than like per se, I would say Middle Eastern, like Turkey and people coming from their country over there. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot. It's definitely diverse. The food, the language, like, everything's diverse.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Florida's always a nice place. Like I said, I haven't really been there a whole lot. Like I've been there when I was younger. I spent a lot of time in Cuba when I was like growing up and stuff like that. So I get kind of an idea for the climate. Not so much like I know from going to Cuba to Florida, it's completely different in terms of like what's built up there. But yeah, man, like Florida has been a place like I've always looked at as like one of the like states that really stands out and really like, looks and feels more like the Caribbean than the rest of America, if you want my honest opinion.
For sure. I mean, it's hot year round. I think this year we got maybe like 1 week of 50-degree weather. That was it. 50-degree, maybe at night. It might have been down to the 40s, but other than that, and I'm talking about South Florida, because you can go up to like North Florida. You can go up towards the Panhandle by, up there by Alabama in the Appalachian. And you go up there and it gets down to 20 degrees, you know what I mean? So it gets cold, but down here, it's just, we so close to the equator, we don't see winter. We have one season hot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I have an aunt who lives like in the northern part of Florida, and she was telling me that a while back that like you know, when she tells people she lives in Florida, they always assume like Southern Florida, and she's like, it's still hot here, but it's different. Like we kind of have more seasons and stuff. But I wanted to ask you, like, from like South Florida to like the northern part of Florida, does the culture change a lot, or is it like the same thing all the way through?
It changes. You could go into the country in Florida, and you could go someplace that you don't want to be. You know what I mean? Like there's still some fucked up towns in Florida. There's still some old country racist towns. We're talking about like Jay, Florida, Appalachia up there towards the Appalachian. We're talking about some parts in Gainesville. We're talking about Trenton, Florida. And it's so country and uncivilized. It's just like, but then you could go, because Florida's so big, you can go fucking 6 hours south and you'll be right in the city. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you go 6 hours north, you'll be someplace you don't want to be, around a bunch of trees and rednecks.
That's crazy. Okay, so like the last thing I really wanted to ask you, and this is like, you know, when people hear about Florida, this is one of the things they think about right away. You guys got like alligators, you got crocodiles down there. So for me out here, right, if I see a lake or a river or something, the worst thing you really got to worry about is drowning, right? Like there's not really, at least like, unless you're like off in the ocean or something, there's not really anything here that could really do anything to you. Like there's some fish that could bite you that they'll fuck up your leg, but they're not going to like kill you or anything. What is it like having to live around that? Like, is it something you think about a lot, or is it just like, it's something you don't even think about?
It's just a part of life. Like I see iguanas every day. I see alligators every now and then. It depends where you at. There's alligators all over Florida, but you have to be in the alligator area. You know what I mean? Like there's canal lines that don't have alligators in it, probably because there's residential communities around it. But like I said, you go an hour or so north, you know what I mean? And you hit the swamp up there, or you go out towards the Everglades and you hit the swamp, it's alligators everywhere. It's more alligators than it is people. But it's not something that me at a young age, like I grew up under a single mom. You know what I mean? And my big brother. So the neighborhood was, you know, me and my big brother, he we're 7 years apart. So we weren't really that close. You know, as he was older in his 17 and 18, I was still young. He wanted to hang out with an older crowd, this, that, and third. I picked my own older crowd to hang out with because I wasn't hanging out with my brother. So I was hanging out in the neighborhood, and like growing up in Florida, like we jump in canals, we jump in lakes and shit. You know, we go swimming in that shit. We jump off of bridges and stuff like that. So at a young age, that fear kind of like got pushed away. I don't know how to explain it. Like I caught snakes growing up and shit. You know what I mean? I was that one that went looking for snakes and shit. You know what I mean? But it's just you gotta. It's if you grow up around it. I guess if you grow up around it, it doesn't become a fear. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't really know how to explain it. Like when I was 11, my homeboy jumped in a golf course canal and caught an alligator. You feel me? So
yeah,
it was a baby one. It was about 4 feet, but he jumped right on that bitch and caught it. You know what I mean? Put it in the backyard till it got a little bit big, and then he had to let it go because it got too big. But alligators is a part of life down here.
I mean, I guess it makes sense, bro. Like, if you've grown up around it your whole life, you kind of just got to deal with it. And if you go around just being terrified of it all day, you're not going to be fucking very calm and have a good life out there. I could see that. But
there was a lady that just got ate by an alligator down here like a couple months ago. She just got ate. She got like, right in. You could probably find it on Live Leaks or whatever and maybe edit a clip in, but it was crazy. It was crazy. She got ate by an alligator, came right up and snagged her ass and took her in. Old lady.
Crazy. So for people who aren't from there, what few pieces of advice would you give them just to stay safe of alligators if they're in Florida?
I mean,
stay away from the water or what?
Yeah, they're not really gonna mess with you unless you mess with them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If you have a small dog, don't walk your dog near fucking canal lines that you know might have alligators in it, because at the end of the day, the alligator might take you and your dog. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They get big down here, so it's just you gotta. I fish, so I'm on the canal lines and on swamp lines all the time. It doesn't bother me, but I know what to be aware of and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
So
it's unpredictable with an alligator because they can come from under the water and just snag you in. But yeah, it's just you got to know the areas basically. Just know where you traveling. You know, just don't go playing around any canal unless you know what's in that canal.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, so I'm curious to ask you. You said you like to fish, right? I can imagine the fishing in Florida must be fucking pretty amazing, from the freshwater to the saltwater and everything you have right there. You know, but before we start closing out, you know, talk to me something about the fishing out there, because I know fishing's huge out here.
I grew up fishing, man. I grew up fishing. So I grew up going to like Bass Pro and shit. Like I said, I grew up under a single mom, so she tried to put me in a lot of different like programs and after school programs and stuff like that, to where summer camps and shit like that, to where I could experience stuff and shit like that. But I grew up going to Bass Pro. I was even for about a year, I was a junior angler for Bass Pro. So like I definitely grew up fishing. You know, I would say when I was, from the time I was 8 all the way till probably I would say 14 or 15, I fished a lot. Everything from bass, freshwater to saltwater, tarpon, barracuda, whatever the hell we fishing for. You know what I mean? Not saying that we fishing for barracuda, but you catch barracuda a lot down here. They like to hit the lines. They like to hit whatever you are fishing for.
And do you prefer saltwater or freshwater?
I prefer freshwater, but my wife, she fishes too, and she prefers saltwater, so we go saltwater a lot. Okay. It's a lot more fish to catch in saltwater. Usually when I'm freshwater fishing, I'm just fishing for one thing: bass and more bass. Yeah. Every now and then I might fish for catfish in freshwater, but I like bass fishing. Ain't nothing like bass fishing. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I agree with you 100%.
It's a thrill. It's not like bass fishing. My son just caught his first bass at 3 years old. Caught his first bass. I took him to Bass Pro, and they had a little community thing where you could fish. They have a property where they have like a lake and shit like that. And you can fish at the lake, and they take the kids down to the lake, and they caught him a bass. They caught him a little 3-4 pound bass. You know,
that's crazy.
At 3 years old.
That's dope, bro.
That's dope.
Yeah, no, I love going fishing, bro. My parents, they used to live on a lake, like when they retired before my dad passed away, they lived on a lake up north. And bro, like when I used to have time to go up there, bro, like the lake had like a few people who lived on it, and it wasn't really like a fish lake. So like the fish in there went crazy, bro. And like, yeah, I used to love that shit. And like also too, like where I live in Montreal, right? And Montreal is an island, and we're on the St. Lawrence River, right? So figure the island has millions of people who live on it, and there's a river that runs around it. So you can imagine how big the river is, right? And like, bro, there's like some crazy big fish. Like we get sturgeon in there and stuff like that.
Y'all go trout fishing up there too, right?
Yeah. Like not so much like around Montreal, but like the trout, like because it's the city here, the trout like the really clean water. So like if you want trout, you got to like go up north and find like a stream, and usually talk to like a native guy or whatever who really knows the area. But like, yeah, bro, there's a ton of fishing in Canada, because you got to figure like outside of the cities, right? You don't got to go very far outside of the city, and you're just hitting mountains, forests, right. And like you can drive like for fucking days, bro, and not see a big city in Canada. Like I know, like when I've traveled the US, it's like every couple of hours you see a big city, right? Unless you're going from Montreal to Toronto and like along that route. If you're going north, bro, you're gonna go 2 days, 3 days and drive, and you're not gonna see a city. You might see some towns, and like you can drive for hours and not see a house and shit like that. Like it's really crazy. Yeah, no, Canada's a big country for how few people are in it.
Canada's definitely big.
So yeah, fam, that's really all my questions, bro. But I wanted to give you a chance. Like if you want to tell any stories, if you want to talk about anything, bro, we got the time. Feel free.
I mean, really, we touched up on a lot. I don't really have nothing for you right now. Is there anything you want to throw at me before we get out of here?
No, I think I got all my questions before. I wanted to ask you about fishing for sure, because I had noticed between now and then that you had been like on Instagram, you had something about fishing, or on YouTubers. So I forget where I saw it. So I wanted to ask you about that, but no, that's about it, bro. I think
we need the audience to tell us how to get Pinot into Canada, man.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
How long has it been since you got your last charge?
Oh shit, I'm fighting a charge right now.
So you're gonna have to deal with that first, and then
Yeah.
I don't know how it works in the U.S. right? So I know in Canada, if you get like a serious enough charge where you can't go to the U.S. after like 7 or 10 years or something, you can get a pardon, and it means like the Canadian government, for the most part, like your charge kind of goes away. Like other countries can't see it, and like I don't think police can. I don't know exactly how it works, but I know once you get one, you can travel to the U.S. if you have like a serious charge. But like I don't really know how it works in the US.
The US allows a lot of people in, but it's like Canada for some reason won't let no convicted felons in, or certain places like the UK, they won't let me go over there without I think it's called a special visa.
Yeah,
so it's like I have to get permission from the government to go over there, basically.
Yeah, Canada's probably pretty strict like that. Like, I'm not gonna lie, bro. Canada's not like bro. The difference between Canada and the U.S. is pretty big. Like, Canadians are very like, a lot of them are very like, I don't know, very soft, bro. Like,
I don't know. I like the rapper coming out of Canada, Mercules.
Yeah, he's pretty fire, bro. He's got a lot of crazy remixes and shit. He's definitely
I definitely fought with some of his remixes.
Yeah, and
he did that Havana remix.
Yeah, no, I seen that. That was pretty good.
Dope.
I forget which city he's from. Out west. He's from like Alberta, I think, maybe BC, but I think Alberta somewhere or something like that. I feel fucked up for not knowing that, but I know he's from out west somewhere. I know, like
he reminds me of a Florida boy, man. He just was born in Canada. You know, he maybe in another life he was a Floridian, but you know, Mercules definitely he got some swag. I like him. I fought with him.
So, there's a lot of artists from Toronto, like from 2017, 2018, 2019. There started to be a whole bunch of artists from Toronto that started to be like, you know, multiple tracks with millions of views and shit. I'll send you some links after if you want, bro. There's actually quite a big scene up here. Where I live in Quebec, it's like most of the big artists out here speak French, because it's like it's all French out here. Everyone speaks French.
Is there a drill scene in Canada?
Yeah.
There's a drill scene in Canada?
Yeah.
You definitely got to
I'm going to send you some crazy links. Friday, the guy who you met, who's doing the production and who owns the network, bro, he has crazy videos about that stuff too. So I'll send you some shit for sure. People don't expect that, but there is. There's, believe it or not, too, bro. Where I live in Quebec, there's a French drill scene. Like, there's people who diss each other. Like, some people will diss these guys speaking English, and these guys will diss them back speaking French and like shit like that. Like, back in the day, like 10, 15 years ago, there's a lot of like Haitian rappers and stuff, right? That only used to learn to speak English so they could rap. And it like, if you weren't from here, it sounds horrible because they're speaking like broken English. If you're from here, it's not so bad because you hear them all the time. But like, yeah, like these guys, because like a lot of Haitians and a lot of Africans from North Africa come here because they already speak French, right? So they come here and they don't really have to learn English like that. But then when rap started getting big, a lot of these guys were like, oh, fuck, I have to learn English because no one wants to listen to French rap. So like they started like you know, learning English, a lot of them just to rap. So like the early on rap here had like a super big French accent, like, you know, so like the English rap from here never really took off outside of here. And so everyone who wanted to get big started just doing French rap because, like, you know, you can get big in French rap here and then go tour in like, you know, Africa and like Northern Africa and like Europe and like places like that and make a decent amount of money.
Wow.
But
yeah, you gotta send me the link.
It's definitely a different fucking scene, bro. But yeah, fam, respect for the interview. I appreciate everything. I appreciate your time and I appreciate you coming back so we can finish this up. And yeah, bro. So that's been it. Like, comment, subscribe, bro. Go ahead, plug your stuff before we finish up.
For sure. Hit me up on PNO on YouTube. Just type PNO. If you see the ski mask with the gold teeth, that's me. On Instagram, raw_talk08. That's my only Instagram. I don't have any other Instagram, so don't follow any other Instagrams. There's a lot of fake pages.
And as always, we'll actually have the good links in the bottom, as always, so you guys can find them there. And yeah, bro, like I said, respect for your time, and that's it. Peace out, everyone.
Appreciate it.
We love hip hop.